Live.
Hey guys, it's Tabb with Freefly Systems. We're here at the Freefly headquarters in Woodinville, and we've done a few of these over the past couple of days, but this one we're going to talk through some of the Mobi Pro features, but I'm mostly interested in answering any lingering questions that people have or showing off any functionality that we might have missed. So the setup today, Hugh's filming, Evan is off camera and he'll be calling out questions that come in. I told him to be pretty aggressive with the question calling if possible so we can get through a lot of them. And then I've got just a list of stuff I'll talk through on Mobi Pro. We launched this thing a week ago, and the last week has just been incredibly exciting for the team here. When you're this close to a project, like we've been working on this thing every single day for the last year, you lose track of where this thing fits in the overall cinema world. And to see how people have reacted, like how excited people have been, has been just super awesome for us, because we kind of thought that, the Mobi was a big deal, and then this is kind of the add-on, the next Mobi, and it'll be a good addition. But to see how people have really reacted has been incredible. So let's talk through some of the stuff on the Mobi Pro. So I'll start off with kind of talking to the power of the Mobi Pro. So that's really the motors. We've increased the torque we've doubled the torque on the pan motor, and we've increased the torque on the roll and the tilt motor by 50% apiece. So we had some customers that wanted to go faster on, when shooting by car, faster when flying by Alta, that kind of thing. So basically we've increased this dimension of the pan motor, the depth of the pan motor, to give it more torque. So that's been a welcome addition with a lot of people that have tested so far. These batteries, now the batteries are smart batteries and they're hot swappable. So if we were actually shooting right now and this thing was approaching the limit of what the batteries could provide, someone could come in, swap in, new pack, and you can continue shooting. And it's powering everything on here from camera to accessories. We can talk more about that later. But looking at the gimbal now, the wiring is all hidden. So wiring is coming down these tubes into, we call this the GCU, and then you have one external wire here that we call the Roper Flipper. It's named after the engineer that came up with that. And that allows, let me demo it real quick. Let me disconnect the red monitor. Well, essentially what that allows is it allows the roll axis to flip over 180. So when you're going from situations where you have the gimbal mounted in, we call it gimbal up or gimbal down, you have the ability to quickly roll 180 and not have to reset your camera package or rebalance, do anything like that. Plug this guy back in. So continuing on hidden wiring, you can see wiring it's all enclosed in the roll beam here. We've added a carbon fiber closeout to increase the stiffness of this structure. Yep.
We have a question. Does the ring disassemble for transportation?
The ring does not. It's to make this thing as light and as stiff as possible. It's carbon fiber and bonded joints. So this is 30mm thin wall carbon fiber. It's bonded here to this integrated toad in the hole. So one of the things that people found with M15, if you're running a super heavy camera package, if you went to look up like this, you could get into a situation where this joint could slip. There's absolutely no slippage possible anymore because these joints are mechanically bonded. So it was a trade-off to go the direction of a non-collapsible ring to keep weight at an absolute low and stiffness at the highest point. Hugh and I personally had like a bit of a battle over this one, and I won. I'm bigger and I'm just bigger, I guess, and maybe potentially more tenacious. So the ring is one piece. I have a feeling everyone's going to chime in and say Hugh's idea was better, but you got to think through the total implications here. We're going to have a more expensive ring. We're going to have a heavier ring, all so that you can break it down into a tiny little knapsack, which you got to travel with a full cinema setup anyway, so you're carrying some serious luggage. So hidden wiring, continuing on that.
Austin Glass asks if you're willing to cooperate with third parties regarding compatibility with other Fizz hand controllers.
Yeah, I'll touch on that later.
Okay.
That's kind of my last section. Thanks, Austin. Cruising down on hidden wiring, so we have wiring that snakes down to we call this the tilt stage unit. And then from here, this distributes out all kinds of inputs and outputs. So there's full focus, iris, and zoom control. There's a USB-C connector here. We've got two D-taps here. I can come up here if that's better, Hugh. So we've got a 11 to 14 volt D-tap for camera output, and that's putting out 6 amps. The other one The other one's putting out 2 amps at 12 volts. So that's for running things like Teradek, Paralinks, wireless,
If
Cinetape.
anything new is coming to NAB 2017, should we wait for something beyond Mobi Pro?
I mean, our whole business plan is to develop disruptive products as quickly as possible. So there will always be something new coming, as long as we're all still alive and solvent. But as far as in this space, in the very high-end gimbal space, there's nothing imminent from us. We just got done with this. We got to take a little rest. Talking more about TSU, on the other side, we've got a cam port, and this interfaces with all different kinds of cameras. So it can interface with RCP, it can interface with Lank, it can interface kind of next on our next firmware release. We'll interface with Phantom. We've got a CAN output, an expansion port for things like small computers that we might add to the tilt stage eventually, and then timecode in and out. We haven't done anything with timecode in and out, just we thought it was a good idea to include, so we did. This little guy, the little computer underneath, has got kind of one of everything. And you can see, I've got this set up, let me move so you can see here. I've got this set up to a Mobi controller right now.
Chris Fenner asks if we can create a thumb control for focus control with Freefly Fizz in single operator situation.
We can, and we get a lot of requests for that, and we have internalized those requests and recognized that they're a good idea. We're just resource constrained to do everything at once. So it's definitely on our minds. We're just ranking it in priorities as to other things we can work on. But I think one thing I'll talk about at the end is kind of we're discussing our approach towards third-party integration and the level of open. But you can see focus, iris, both being driven from the tilt stage unit right now, which is pretty cool. And
Jose asks what's the weight of the hand setup compared to the air setup?
Well, you would just lose the ring essentially to go to the aerial setup. So you lose the ring, but you'd gain the landing gear. So we can, if you guys can track down the hanging scale, we can weigh that guy. There should be one of them in the toolbox over there. So I don't know exactly what the delta is between the ring. If you lose the ring but add the landing gear, I don't know exactly what that delta is. Where are we at? Okay. So moving on.
Can the Mobi Pro roll axis roll 360? Maybe if someone with a Mimic rolls the Mimic 360?
Yes. So if I understand your question correctly, let me disconnect this guy real quick so I can demo it. But you have the ability to do a 180-degree roll. We've already shown and discussed that. But if I were operating this, let me put in majestic. If I as the operator were operating this and executed a roll while the camera operator executed a roll, you should be able to do a 360-degree roll. It would be a complex move. The reason I say should is just because firmwares leading up to launch have been changing so rapidly. I'm not exactly sure what the precise feature set is in all regards. It's really tough to keep track of all the different things that are going in and out. So let's talk, look at the red monitor again.
Here's the scale.
Thank you.
Paul wants to know how often you have to change batteries when running an Epic transmitter, and if there's a plan to do a hardwired plug that you can run off AC.
There is no plan to do a hardwired plug right now. The ease of use with these batteries has been sufficient that we haven't ever found a situation where we wanted to do that. When I'm out shooting aerials, we have a couple of these chargers set up in the car, and then we're just taking enough batteries for our immediate needs. But technically it's possible to do something like that. I think it's not something that we're gonna pursue right now. So this is 16.2 pounds roughly, 6.9 kg. And that is our aerial setup with the Epic. This is a heavier, older one. 24 Canon Cine Prime, and then focus and iris motors from Red Rock, and then
Luca Ritchie asks if there's any chance for an upgrade path or discount for those that have bought an M15 4 months ago, spending more than what Mobi Pro costs today, and want to buy a wedge. I don't completely understand the question, but
no, these are two completely different systems, and there's no upgrade path. There's I mean, they share almost nothing. So to upgrade a legacy system would be ineffective from a pricing perspective. You know, it's almost a complete new system.
Michael wants to know if you can mount the Mobi on the Mimic handle. I think we kind of know where they're going with that.
Mount the Mobi on a Mimic.
I think the answer is the other handle that we have available.
Yeah, so if you're interested in just using a classic style handle, then definitely you can just mount it on the classic handle. The Mimic handle is more similar now to the M5 handle, so there's no toad in the hole or anything built onto that one, which would make it difficult to mount. You have one? Oh, it's over here. So this is the Mimic handle. So it's just got the M5 style hand grips and then provisions to mount our 13mm plugs. So there's not really, I mean, you could add a toad in the hole mounting if you wanted to, but you could also just use a legacy handle from an M5, an M10, an M15, or a classic handle that we've released with Mobi Pro. One thing I thought would be nice to show is just the built-in screen. There's a lot of things I enjoy about this. The thing that I like the most, I think, is auto-tune is fantastic. Obviously, we can do one real quick. So,
Paul asks, with only 2 D-taps, how do you power the camera, the video transmitter, and third-party focus controller all at the same time?
Well, you can that third-party focus controller right off the bat. Save the weight and the complexity. There's a third D-tap up here on the GCU if you don't want a smarmy answer. So you can see right there, there's another D-tap down in there. So basically we can't distribute any more power unless these batteries get enormous or we increase the size of the wiring in this thing to just astronomical levels. So if you have a certain instance in which you need to power something specific, you're gonna have to run, you know, that won't be covered by the 12-volt camera, the 2 12-volt accessory ports, and the 5-volt 1-amp USB output. Then you're gonna have to come up with a different way to power it, like a small LiPo or accessory power pack. On the screen though, I thought we'd run auto-tune real quick just so you can see live how it works. So the only settings are, there's various percentages you can set of auto-tune, like how aggressive the auto-tune will be. This one's currently set at 50, I think it's a little bit low. Once you, there's a custom firmware on this one that displays pictures of neck face when you auto-tune right now, which I forgot about. We did that as a joke for Ty Evans, so. As you can see, even the engineering team here is very creative. So it takes about 10 seconds. It's about 3 seconds per axis, and you can hear it making that noise. What it's doing is injecting noise into the system via the pan, tilt, and roll motors to derive optimal tuning and filter parameters. The thing I was going to reference that I really enjoy, though, is when you get into this balance screen, it's a live balance assist screen. So you can see if, like, pretend I was out of balance on roll, you can see that the roll is pegged to the left. So that helps know how balanced you are. But the thing that's really great is pause motors. So there's plenty of instances in which Hugh and I are operating and we get separated by some amount of distance, something like that. I won't say what you think I'm going to say, Hugh, don't worry. And it's really nice to have the option to kill the gimbal pause motors as the gimbal operator, because there's been many a time where I find myself, like, you know, sometimes we've even gotten separated by vehicles and stuff, and you find yourself a mile away and the thing is still being controlled while he's discussing something with a director or something like that. So I love having just the ability right on the unit to go click, 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 pause motors, and I have control of the thing. And then you have some options for tilt mode and binding to mimic and stuff like that. So I'm gonna turn off this Mobi control.
Asks, what about roll/Dutch moves on the Pro?
What about them? They should be used with restraint. That's what I would say on that. No, they're possible. You can, let's turn on mimic and I'll demo.
We could do it with me. I would have to hand over that.
Okay, so let me get these two squared up. So you can see me in the background?
Yep.
Yeah. So for roll moves, you can see Evan, will you just go keep a hand on the gimbal? I want to make sure if I do aggressive move, it doesn't fling itself off the table. Just keep a hand on the wing. Okay, so you can see I'll do a full roll here. I don't want to tangle wires, but you can see I'm just upside down with the Mimic. I've rolled it over. So you have the ability to do that much roll without changing the handle frame orientation. But if you were able to have the operator roll with the handles as well, then you'd have the ability to roll continuous and unobstructed. It's a difficult maneuver to pull off, but for some specialty shots, it's worth the effort. So coming back to Mimic, let's come here so you can see the screen here. So I remember when I bought one of the first Epic M's, and one of the things that I was extraordinarily excited about was the red mote. And it didn't quite live up to what I'd hoped that device would be coming from an aerial perspective. I thought the packaging and the design was really just excellent, but I had some performance issues with that. It was intermittent enough that I didn't adopt it for aerial workflow. So we've tried to create something that has key red control features and has a long range RF. So the ability, even just the ability to start stop. Oops, I hit the power button, not the start stop. So you can see feedback on the Mimic says recording. We're recording on the red, ability to stop. And then right now we've only activated the following RCP features. So ISO, FPS, raw on and off toggle, red code, temperature, and shutter. But it's fairly trivial to add any of the other RCP parameters in the future for people that are interested in it. So then you can, this is a dev screen. You won't have this in your final one, but this is how we figure out when things go ape shit on us, why they did so.
Question, do we still have to balance the pan arm?
Oh yeah, good question. You do have to balance it. It's a little more simple versus the M10 that we originally launched. There's just these two guys here, and I'm gonna kill this guy. We just pop in kill. Okay, so you have to open these two toggles, and then this whole mechanism slides fore and aft. So you kind of have to get your fingers in here, and you can slide it forward or slide it backwards.
The Mobi Pro price and introductory price?
It is an introductory price, and the free shipping offer is introductory too. We're kind of, we're figuring out exactly what we're going to do in the future based upon how well this thing takes off. It's been an extraordinary launch for us so far, though. So thanks for all the support. Just want to balance this guy again. Okay, so I'm going to close these clamps up underneath, and then pan's done. So rather than the way we used to handle it is it used to adjust back here at this clamping axis, we now move the adjustment axis directly under the pan motor. So I think, yeah, it works. It's much easier, much more repeatable, I'd say. So we talked about 180 roll. Let's talk briefly about toad in the hole. So I'm going to disconnect the red monitor. I just want to show, if you're familiar with the toad in the hole, sorry for hammering on this, but I think it's one of the cooler things about our, this ecosystem that we're developing. So the ability to move very quickly between things. So there's a toggle clamp that I just released, and then these two push buttons, and then this whole thing comes off. It's kind of an awkward angle I'm doing it at, but you can see I'm ready to transfer to just about anything now. So if I wanted to go to Alta, I'll install it on Alta real quick. So you can see I just do the 180 roll. Oops. Get that on the toad, activate that clamp, we're ready to fly top mount. If we wanted to fly bottom mounted gimbal, we'd just add the landing gear like we'd have there. So let me get this guy off. And I thought, let's cruise over and mount it on the truck real quick.
With the forward angle on the pan axis, do you have issues balancing when it's on the stand?
Forward angle, the stand leans forward about 5 degrees. So it allows you to balance the pan axis. I really don't want to drop this on camera. So click that in, activate the clamp, we're ready to go. I knocked off the Mobi controller receiver. So anyway, toad in the hole, super quick for changing to different ways of shooting.
Can you still bind external receivers and use other RC protocols, S-Bus, Spectrum, etc.?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll show you in a second where those, what port those would go into. My hands are too fat for this. Okay. So if you are one of the people still using Futaba, Spectrum, that kind of thing, there's 2 COM ports on the GCU right here underneath these gaskets. So you would just plug into one of those.
Can you show us how focus iris zoom will work from the Mimic remote?
I can't show you that. That's one of the things that we're going to release in our first firmware update. So that's not actually working yet today. I can show you in theory how we're going to implement it though. I think the way we like so far is having discrete buttons for focus, iris, and zoom. And like say you wanted to take iris from 11 to 5.6, you'd select this button, that would be the iris button, and you'd simply roll to the left to decrement and to the right to increment. And we're thinking about the same thing with the focus and iris and zoom on that. But we haven't nailed exactly the UX UI on that, like how the user experience will be. We just haven't had time to roll it out. But that's definitely planned for our first firmware update and will be kind of one of the cool things that we'll add. I'll talk a little bit more about that on future stuff.
Can you talk through the arm, what equipment that is?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me just fix that. I put the toad in the hole and crooked on this. Well, I thought the camera car thing was pretty cool, and then Hugh, I saw it was in my office the other day, and Hugh went up to me with the Hugh dolly. Can you move for a second, Emma? Or Ryan, sorry. So I was working the other morning, and I saw this thing motor by, innovative cart, and he was doing like dolly shots with the Mobi Pro in the front. Pretty funny. But yeah, we can talk through the arm and what it is, how it works, why it's cool. So, okay, set this guy back on. Actually, we can just set him over here. So one thing that's good to show is how, this is the man behind the roper flipper, Ian Roper.
Don't blame me for that.
So setting it down, it's pretty solid and stable. And one of the like design requirements when we were building this thing is we really wanted to be able to be like shooting. Oh man, I'm tired and these people are taking forever to compose a shot. I want to get the thing on the ground and go hands off quickly. So we came up with this technique where the ring is leaned forward a little bit, and we have got molded fiber Zytel legs that clamp on and positively key into the ring. So the whole thing feels pretty stable and secure. One of the things that we kind of fell in love with without knowing that it was going to be great was being able to set it on the ground and actually point the camera. For a lot of the Ty Evans piece, if you watch that, Hugh was actually, I was just sitting there with resting on the ground, and Hugh was picking off shots that he saw from time to time. So talking through this, all of this black stuff here up until this point is the Flow Cine black arm with the level 1 vibration mount, which is their lowest weight option that they have. And then the gray stuff from here to here is Grip Tech. So this is a Grip Tech quick release Mitchell mount, and they call this a scaft or something. I can't remember the exact terminology, but basically it's a quick release Mitchell, a riser, and then Moy to scaff, I think. I don't know. I'm not a grip. I just am good at putting bolts together. And then this actually comes from a guy that like builds custom suspension parts in California. I got his contact from Corey K from Motion State, and this is just a custom fabricated piece that converts a trailer hitch to a Mitchell mount. So we can take this anywhere in the world with us. If you get a rental car SUV or something like that, you pop it in the back and you're good to go for shooting car shots, which has been incredibly fun for us. We've been using it all over the place.
Justin Hoffman asks if a Mobi Pro Mini is in the future. Do you see a smaller version of this design taking over the old design models? Also throw a Sony FS7 on the Mobi Pro, and he'll buy it. so we could make a sale.
Oh, I got you. So, like confirm that an FS7 fits?
Yeah.
Okay. If I had an FS7, I would love to do that. That'd be awesome, but I don't. I still got this thing crooked.
And Chris Finner asks who makes the Hitch/Mitchell mount.
LSK.
LSK Performance. I just did a post on my blog, which we can link to, that has all these items linked, hyperlinked to. So that's maybe the easiest way to find it if you want to look. But it's not listed on their website or anything. It was like a custom thing. I had to get in contact with Corey to figure out how to order. Okay. So we talked through handle ecosystem. The handle ecosystem, there's the ring, there's the classic handle, there's the low profile handle.
Yes, the medium blog.
What's that?
The medium blog they're asking about.
Yeah, exactly. We haven't really showed, I haven't showed the app too much. Thought we could connect to that real quick. Actually, the app, I didn't realize this, but the app is released and in the App Store. So if you search for it, you can download it and play with it. It won't populate some of the information yet, but it's there. There's so many Mobi Pros on right now. I gotta figure out if I'm on the right one.
There are.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so this is the app. If you've used Akira, it's very similar. So we got Mobi Pro, and you can also connect to Mimic with the same app, and it'll change the name and say Mimic. So configurations, we got tuning, majestic, time-lapse, dual-op, target, general, monitor. We've got status of everything. So we're at 22.4 volts, status is running. The boot was good. We've got loss of signal on radio, which is to be expected because both the Mimic and the Mobi controller are turned off. Compass is good, mode is normal, no GPS, we're inside. And if you don't have GPS, you can't have position lock. We are currently connected to 0 satellites in the building. The motor drives are good, the IMU is good, and the microcontroller temperature is 41 degrees C. And then you can see live charting if you want to. You can see as I'm moving pan, it shows up as yaw, but you can see the disturbance there.
Justin's, he said he's on his way over, or he's coming over with a Sony FS7. So.
Okay, right now? Live?
I don't know if he said
Where is he coming
right
from?
now.
New Zealand?
He just said he'll come over.
Okay.
Haha.
So that's a quick introduction to the app. It's very similar to Akira if you're familiar with that. And we'll be building that out in the future. We showed auto-tune.
Joshua Robert Cote wants to know when we will begin shipping.
Mid-November. So sometime around November 15th. That's the plan. Actually, some important pieces for that delivery are arriving today, so everybody's kind of like, there's nervous energy waiting to see if everything's going to come together like we expect. Product launches are exhilarating and terrifying at the same time. So, oh, I thought I'd show the boot. The 2-second boot's pretty cool.
Can you shoot from over the head mode to underslung mode in roll, meaning you have the Mobi Pro upright and you roll the total system 180 degrees to low mode? Will the roll stabilize and peak level 180?
Yes, the roll will. However, just to explain this visually, you will encounter gimbal lock. When you get here, when you get a 90-degree roll, you're going to lose your ability to stabilize. So you have 2 axes lining up. So you have pan that's stabilizing there, and then you have tilt that's also doing the same thing. So you've lost 1 degree of freedom there. So you definitely can roll through there, but you're going to lose the ability to stabilize perfectly at that singularity. So I think the only other things, we give Shane a heads up, 1 minute warning. The only other things I want to talk through is just let everybody know we're kind of finalizing how we're going to approach making this gimbal very accessible for third parties to work with. And there's ongoing discussions with kind of the engineering team and kind of our strategy and business team here to figure out exactly what our stance is. Everyone's definitely leaning towards publishing a protocol that will expose some of our control, some of our wireless control messaging, so that third parties can interface with this thing. For instance, if RT Motion, you know, there's tons of people that have RT Motion handset, and if we can pull it off in the way that we think we can, potentially you could be able to talk from the RT Motion handset directly to this. There's lots of other things that are an option. One of the things I know that's important to Red users and has become incredibly popular lately is Fool Control. So there's ongoing discussions with Fool Control to see if there is a way. There's some technical challenges to overcome with bandwidth and throughput, but we're marching forward towards a more open ecosystem for Movi in the future, because we've seen so far, even just with the limited amount of effort that we've put in there, when accessories do pop up that we're not able to complete internally, it really does increase the value of this system for users. So
is the Movi controller needed to control focus, iris, and zoom?
right now, yes. On the first firmware release, when we release Fizz control via Mimic, no. So that's kind of one thing I want to talk about. Roadmap. We're targeting quarterly updates for Movi Pro, and there'll be ongoing stream of bug fixes and smaller updates. But these quarterly updates, we're targeting like significant user feature additions. So things like on this first firmware update, the two big user additions that we have slated are Fizz control via Mimic, so the ability to like click iris and then control iris by doing a gesture command. Same with focus, same with zoom. And then Shane has a demo set up in.
Two questions. Do you still need Wi-Fi adapter on the Movi to use the iPhone app?
No, we've gone to Bluetooth Smart or Bluetooth Low Energy, so you can see. Well, I just did it a second ago, but it takes just seconds to connect to Movi Pro with Bluetooth.
And then can you show compatibility of the new Ring and the Movi M15?
Yeah, it works fine. I don't have one here to show, but we did have. Do we still have that M5 on the?
There's one right there.
Okay, I'll show it real quick because it's actually hilarious. So this is the M5 on the Movi Ring Pro, and it looks ridiculous. It looks like a covered wagon or something. It's just hilarious. So anyway, there's plenty of clearance. So you can imagine an M15 would sit a little bit bigger in here, but it's still not as big as the Movi Pro. So there's plenty of room. But let's go check out the other surprise for the first firmware update. And that is in the Meerkat development room. And Shane has put together a quick little demo for us. So he's got a gamepad plugged into Mimic and the ability to.
So you can control through the Mimic's USB-C port with a standard USB gamepad. This is like PlayStation 4 style one. So you've got pan, tilt, roll, and in the future we'll have focus, iris, zoom. So that's one of the cool things about Mimic, the expansion ports, the USB-C and the two COM ports. So we can do lots of cool stuff in the future with it.
Yeah, so Shane was one of the driving forces behind Movi Controller, and then he was the driving force behind this maneuver here, which just obsoleted Movi Controller. So self-cannibalism. But I don't think it replaces Movi Controller, but it is a nice option. There's a lot of things Movi Controller can do with a really high level of fidelity that this can't do, but I'm excited about this because it's a tiny little thing to travel with. If you had a project where you just had a few shots that were dual operator and you could live with the amount of control that this thing would give you, it's a nice option, it's a cool feature, and it's a great idea. So that's coming on the first firmware release. Thanks, Shane.
Christian wants to know what's the range.
It's the same, it's piped through the Mimic, so it's the same range as the Mimic.
And then Michael Duval wants to know if we have investigated cases yet. We've always done our own custom ones. But if you could give some room for extra battery or two and an accessory, that would be awesome.
Yeah, we can look at cases real quick if you want. So this is, I don't know why this is here, but for those nerdy people watching, this is a 400 watt LED mounted to a 3-axis gimbal used for doing ridiculous stunts with the Alta late at night. This is the kind of thing that happens after hours here. So this is the handheld case here. So I can talk through what there is. So you can store.
Could you plug the Mimic into Alpha wheels then?
Theoretically, yeah. Yeah, I mean, we've already worked with Alpha wheels and given them the Movi Controller protocol and that's how they were able to get absolute control of the Movi through their wheels. So I know that's been a popular thing. So we need to figure out exactly how to do it properly to give that to give our integration with third parties the right amount of attention that people need to develop great things. But everybody's on board here, and we think it's a great idea. So we're just figuring out the details. So ground case, fit aerial stuff, mimic or classic handle, landing gear, battery.
To play on the Mobi Pro display.
What's that?
People want games. On
What
the
kind of
Mobi
games?
Pro display.
Crossy Road?
Something like, probably. I don't know, they didn't specify.
Well, I was thinking it'd be nice to release with the neck face thing, and then we could go to a variety of different funny GIFs while you're doing auto tune. So if you, I don't know if you can like +1 that in Facebook Live, but if you can, that'd be good for the development team to see. So this layer, top layer, comes off. The Mobi Pro can actually go in here with a camera installed. So that's why this case is so big. This is set up to be one that you can just pop your whole camera and ring in and go. So this is kind of like if you're cruising around in a van and shooting all day, this is your go-to. And then more accessories, big accessory compartments and stuff down on the bottom that you can add stuff to. Cases are always a nightmare to make because you never know. You know, I use my stuff one certain way, other people use it their way, everybody's got their own preferences, so this is a thankless task to create cases, I will say. And then, this is the aerial case.
Jose wants an air demo live.
What?
Jose wants an air demo live.
Okay. If somebody gets my Alta on that thing and then gets batteries on it, I'll fly it.
Maybe next time.
I'm not scared, Jose. And then this is the ground case. So gimbal, landing gear, bits and bobs, batteries here. This guy has these little casters that pop on and pop off. What else do we got here? Yeah. That's it on that one.
Is it fine for a smaller controller for Fizz?
A smaller controller for Fizz. Oh, like a hand unit? I can't really say too much about that. Seems logical though. Now, you want to join Casey? We have a guest here today, Casey Warren, longtime friend, kick-ass dude, awesome filmmaker, part-time engineer. I've coined a term from working with Henning Sandström. He's from Sweden, and Henning is the kind of guy where I would leave Freefly and I'd come back in the morning and the place would look like a disaster and he would still be here. His hair would look a little bit crazier than it had, but he would have created some kick-ass thing, kick-ass invention, kind of coming at engineering and innovation from a cinema perspective. And so I coined the term Swengineering, which is a mash of Swedish engineering. And I think Casey shares that same like philosophy. He just has ideas that germinate in his head, and he has to get them out. And if that involves like going to Home Depot to grab pipe and tape and hula hoops and whatever, he'll do it. So Casey was actually the originator of the first Mobi ring, and I think at the time I was like busily working on a spreadsheet trying to figure out how we were going to deliver enough Mobis or something like that, some boring work. And Casey kind of burst through the door and was like, dude, like that's how you know Casey's always arrived, because you hear a dude exclaimed somewhere in the building. And then he proceeded to launch into the Mobi ring pitch like it was Shark Tank or something. And
yeah,
we liked it.
Burst in the office, and I remember I brought in, so this is version 1 and version 2. You can see my engineering skills. Yeah, not so good. I was like, I'm just gonna rector set this thing and get it working. But yeah, I burst in the office, brought in this, and then I remember I think Dave came in and grabbed it, and that ran away.
Yeah.
And then came back with a Mobi mounted to it. And yeah, ever since then, it's been one of my favorite ways to operate, because you can set the Mobi down, take a break, which is awesome, and then you're up and running again. And then also for the like passing it off and stuff like that, that's what I really love about it.
Yeah. And I don't,
Just easily
I
pass
can't
it
say
between
why we
people.
didn't think of this before, but it's a really great idea, because when we made the Mobi, originally it was going to be an aerial only gimbal. So we're kind of thinking about it from that framework, and reframing difficult problems is always it often leads to keen insights like Casey had, because which that thing's a real pain in the butt sometimes. You got to like remember to carry the stand around, and then Casey came up with this idea, and then we kind of took this and evolved it into have feet on it, so you really don't have to carry a stand around anymore, which is a welcome addition to the workflow for me. And Casey and I became friends kind of before Freefly existed and before he was a minor celebrity on Vimeo and such. He hired me to be an aerial cinematographer on one of their jobs, and we had a hilarious first experience, which I think he does a great job
Yeah,
of telling that
so
story.
we want to shoot in India, and we had a helicopter guy there, and he had this rig and everything, and he never flew it. We always wondered why he brought this rig around and would do all this testing and tweaking and starting the motors up, and we were like, are you going to fly this thing? We have to use this in a film in a couple days. And he would, we saw his reels, and they were these amazing aerial reels and all this stuff, and ended up not working. Something randomly broke on the camera. So we came back into town, and Danielle and I had a shoot with Canon in Alaska that we wanted to do aerials with. And they were like, we really want the aerials to be great on this. Do you guys know anyone? And I thought, well, not really, because the guy we just worked with was not good. So we searched all around through reels, and we found this same reel online, and it happened to be Tabb's reel. So this guy had apparently taken the footage that Tabb shot and used it as his reel. And then we contacted Tabb and we're like, hey, we're really worried about this. Like, we had some bad experiences. Can you help us understand that this is safe? And so we went to
I think even before that, the question was posed, is this actually your reel? Like,
Yeah, exactly.
Did you actually shoot this stuff? And I was like, yes, I actually did shoot
So we went
this
to his like first workshop, which was really cool because I love.
When he says workshop, what he means is my mom's garage.
Yes.
Just to clarify that point.
So we walked up there. There's all this equipment laying out, tweaking stuff, and Tabb rigged up one of his helicopters, did a little test run, and then he sold us
I'm gonna
by
grab that helicopter.
landing it in between two BMWs with probably an inch on each side of the rotors to spare. And Danielle and I were like, all right, this guy's legit. So we flew with him to Alaska and shot some awesome footage there. And the first thing we shot in Alaska as our test footage was Tabb put the helicopter up, and we flew it in front of a huge train down train tracks. And we were sold right after that. So, and Tabb is now bringing that first version over.
So this isn't the exact one that I took with Casey, or to Alaska with Casey, but it's very similar. So this is just interesting, I think, for people to see how far the remote aerial cinematography industry has come in the last decade. 10 years ago, this was like absolutely cutting edge, and the footage that we were getting off of this was arguably some of the best footage in the world, and this thing is just an obsolete joke at this point.
He did fly with two of them, though, which was awesome.
Yeah.
One as a backup.
Yeah.
I remember lots of cases, and yeah.
That was a key decision that I made early on in my aerial career, is travel with two of everything always, because something always goes wrong. And it was a very good decision because it reduced my average stress and increased the percentage of successful clients that Hugh and I had back in the day. So when we say that we, actually in our marketing and stuff, when we say that we actually do shoot, Hugh and I really did shoot. We still do shoot, but back in the day we were on the road 300 days a year shooting. So that was our life back then. Life's changed a little bit, and now we're creating cool products.
How does that compare to the Alta?
This thing?
That was a question.
Oh, this thing is a terrifying, fickle death machine compared to the Alta. The Alta is this thing is like if you put a 1,000 horsepower engine in a horse-drawn carriage. And you're like, well, it can go sometimes, but man, is it uncontrollable. And that's kind of what this thing's like. And the Alta's like a Tesla. It's almost, some points we're out shooting and I'm like, I feel like I might not even be controlling it. It feels like it's just flying itself. Like on the Tesla shoot on that one road that we were on where there was just no wind, it was just like, it felt like I was flying a flight simulator.
What about doing a Alta versus this Sky Battle?
Well, this thing's kind of mean. Like I don't know if the Alta do well in that particular battle, but the Alta's pretty agile, so I feel like it could evade.
How much did you guess how much you invested in the original RC helicopter?
I mean, it was a constant evolution of new parts and pieces and bits and bobs, but I think whatever Hugh and I managed to make back in the film days, I invested 20% more than that, essentially. So, I mean, I invested hundreds of thousands of dollars trying to come up with a solution that actually worked. And back then, the kind of pinnacle in the industry was this company called Flying Cam. And the work that they were doing back in the day with the equipment that they had available was just absolutely incredible, and was like a complete inspiration to me to keep pushing and trying to evolve our equipment. So a huge tip of the hat to them for being the pioneers in the industry, and really just the equipment that they were working with was like one step lower even than this back when they started, and the shots that they were able to pull off were just incredible, which just speaks to like their incredible resiliency and Emmanuel's desire to like make that happen, which, you know, I know it can be daunting when there's so many times when I've spent 2 weeks setting up a helicopter like this only to have a problem with it and have the thing crash, and it's just back to one, and you just have to pull yourself up off the floor and keep moving.
You want to take some rapid fire questions?
Sure.
To catch up?
Yep.
Can you plug the thumb controller for focus straight into the Mobi?
What thumb controller? That guy's just skipped right into the future. I try and do this to employees here. I try and like talk from a future perspective where the thing that they're working on already exists to make them internalize its existence a little bit. I'm not going to be tricked by you. We don't have a thumb controller yet. So, but if you were to have a thumb controller, if we were to have a thumb controller, we would make it seamless and easy for you to turn it on and connect it with the Mobi.
Is there a way to access Alexa Mini settings in later firmware updates?
Talk to Michael Jonas. That's my advice for you. The engineering challenge for us to control the Alexa Mini is very trivial. We're solving much more difficult problems on a daily basis. This is a problem of communication and not protocol communication. This is intercompany communication. So talk to Michael Jonas. We would love to make that happen. We have an Alexa Mini right here that I'd love to be able to put on a Mobi Pro and then wiggle the mimic and have it be like, ooh, I'm so cool, I can do all the things.
Yeah, one thing I like about these guys that I told Tabb early on is the constant innovation. So every time I'd come here or their old shop or his mom's attic, there were always things
You
being...
mean my first shop?
Yes.
Okay.
Every time I'd come to each one, there was always stuff being worked on, even from the first meeting with you, from when we were, you did that first test to when he came on the film in Alaska. There was things that were updated and better, and that's what
I'd probably crashed into a tree or something in between that first meeting and the Alaska job.
He's like, that's why I brought that back up. Yeah, it's cool to see just so much innovation and things constantly being evolved. That's what I love.
Question for Casey. How much faster have you been able to shoot with the Mobi Pro thus far versus the M15?
Well, the biggest thing is the boot time with it and the ability that it just bounces so fast. And for me, I love the new feet on it, as well as these little grippy thingies. What's the technical term? Something like that.
Grippy things.
Yes, hand grippy thingies.
Yep.
So it's something that, for me, is like, it fixed all the things that on the M15 that I was always kind of concerned about. Boot time, just being able to set it down on the ground. So it's a lot faster. It's almost instant, I would say, as long as you have your camera turned on. I've had times when I pick up the movie, I'm like, ready to go, and then the camera's not on. So,
Yeah.
We have an Ursa Mini 4K shooter wondering if there's other cameras we're working on supporting for remote control, like we have with the Red.
Yeah, I think as long as there's no technical limitations as to why we couldn't interface with a camera, like as long as we have the right type of protocol to talk to whatever they have, it's definitely something that we can put on the roadmap if there's sufficient interest. I'm hesitant to give like a blanket yes, because then somebody's like, well, how come you don't support the digital Bolex? And it's like, well, sorry, we can't support everything, How come you don't support the Pixel? But if there's enough interest and there's no technical reason why we can't execute, we definitely would.
I have a few questions that were sent to me.
Yeah.
Okay, let me pull them up real quick. One of them would be...
Facebook Live, scripted.
One of them would be, okay, how possible would it be to throw a camera on, not balance it at all, and turn on the auto-tune and go?
Oh, it'd be possible for sure. And if you ended up, I mean, what would happen is if the camera was balanced enough that the motors had enough torque to stabilize, they would do so. But there's kind of, so to describe the different ways that the Movi stabilizes, if you were to get this thing perfectly balanced and then shake it around, you have kind of, I guess the way to describe it is you have an inertial stabilization and then you have the active stabilization for the motors. So if this thing was way out of balance, but the motors had enough torque to balance it, to stabilize, it would do so. But if you were to hit bumps and stuff like that, you would see more disturbance in the footage. So if you can get the thing pretty closely balanced, it'll improve the quality of your footage. But certainly, if you got it on there and it was close enough that the motors actually had enough torque to stabilize, it certainly looked better than like handheld.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Can the Mimic control LA and C functions?
Length? Yeah. Yeah. Not yet, but it will be able to. I think is built out right now in Movi Controller, but not built out in Mimic. Casey, describe how you like to work. And like, I was thinking about that. Why Freefly and Mindcastle seem to work well together. Why do you think that is?
Well, I think it's sort of something where we work a lot the same in the sense of Tabb is constantly innovating on the tech end, and Danielle and I are always working on the story or to how to try to tell them better. A lot of times we basically, we read a lot online, do a lot of research, but then in the end it all comes down to experimentation. You can plan as much as you can storyboard, you can script, but when you actually get there, it just evolves naturally. And that's what I like about the tech side of things, is that you have the freedom to do the stuff you want to do with the tech, and it supports your ideas. So that's kind of where we come from. We're always experimenting. We plan, of course, but we always experiment and let things happen in the moment.
Yeah. I think that's what you touched on there is exactly right. Like the thing that you guys are great at is taking you prep for a project from the creative side to the level that we prep for a project from the technical side. So when you combine those two, it's really great, because like I'm not nowhere near as skilled at directing and researching and set design and all that stuff. But I love like digging in and making sure that the technical tools are ready to kick ass. Yeah. So when I get to like deliver those to and then help you create your vision, it's super fun, because it's the thing that I'm good at, and then the thing that you're good at, and then we're kind of both weak at the opposing side. And I kind of have that same relationship with Hugh and David at Freefly too. Like we're kind of, we're a nice mixture of weaknesses and strengths, and when you bring that all together, I think that's why Freefly has been able to develop disruptive products pretty quickly for a tiny little company.
Yeah, I think some of my favorite projects are always the ones that we get to work with you guys on. We were building a bunch of reels online to use for new clients, and Danielle and I were looking at which ones we put featured, and all of them happened to be the ones we worked with you guys on, and I was like, that's a cool formula to think about. When you work with people you like working with, they bring this tech ability that allows you to do what's in your head to actual projects. That's like, in the end, the ultimate goal.
Yeah, for sure.
Some more questions.
Sure, go for it.
Can the Movi controller and Futaba transmitter work simultaneously? Phys control, camera operation.
There's so many questions embroiled there. Yeah, yes, I think so. They can work simultaneously. And then as far as divvying up the responsibilities between the two controllers, yes, I think that's possible, but I haven't actually done it myself to see how the workflow goes. I have looked at this incredible document that Shane drafted that shows prioritization of inputs our protocol is called QX, for communication protocol. So basically you can have like any number of nodes, and then there's various priorities assigned to those nodes to control any part of the Movi. So it's, I tried to look at it. I just saw like pictures and shapes and stuff. I don't know what it means, but I'm pretty sure the answer is yes.
Does the Mimic still cause the Movi to drift if the Mimic is left on in indirect mode?
I'm trying to figure out exactly what that means. I think what he's talking about is the fact that you can get a situation where if you boot up and both are like this over time, you get drift in both these systems. And depending on what mode you're using in the Movi, if you're not using the compass to reference heading, like an absolute heading over the long term, you still can get drift in both the Mimic and the Mobi, because we're just using gyros to control that if you don't have the compass live. If you do have the compass live and everything's working properly, then you should get no drift. But the compass can, just to expound on that a little bit, the compass can be difficult. You know, I tend not to use compass unless I really need to, because you have this huge mass here that's got all kinds of magnetics. You've got magnetics in the motors, and then depending on what you've got the Mimic mounted to, you've got things that potentially have magnetic fields too. So compass can be difficult to get perfectly reliable.
How many push-ups did you do in prep for the live?
0? How many was I supposed to do? Who was that?
Ryan Hogg.
I don't know if any of you follow Ryan on social media, but there's always one person that posts video of an unreleased product when they're not supposed to. And on this product launch, that was Ryan. So on Saturday morning at like 7 a.m., I'm having a coffee, scrolling through Motion State's Instagram stories, and there's Ryan with like some rap music playing and a shot of Mobi Pro driving by on a Taro, and I'm like, I mean, I expected that from Nutman, Ryan, but you, come on.
Have you crashed an Alta?
Oh yeah.
On purpose, right?
Yeah, I've crashed them on purpose.
Yeah.
I've crashed them not on purpose. I have a really embarrassing story that I'll share so that when people don't feel as bad when they crash. So one of our developers lives in Canada, and he came down for a visit prior to Alta 8 launch, and we went out and flew, actually Alta 6 launch. We went out and flew. I set the thing up on a gimbal, set it up, and as you know, the pan can spin around. And I turned my back on it and wasn't really paying attention, started talking to Lauren. It spun around 180 degrees, I didn't notice, so now the tail was no longer facing at me, the nose is, and I just spooled it up and took off and gave a control input, and it went the opposite direction, and I became thoroughly confused and managed to crash it immediately into a small shrub. And Lauren was looking at me like, I thought you were supposed to be a great pilot. And I'm like, I don't know, Lauren, sorry, buddy. But anyway, I didn't think that I did that, and then we brought it back, and the kind of our forensic crash team on Alta reviewed the footage, and it was like, nope, it's 100% certain. You took off with the thing backwards and crashed into a shrub. It was like, excellent.
Chris Fenner wants to know, a question for Casey. What things do you like most about Mobi Pro, and what would you like to see in the future?
So what I like most, I think I kind of mentioned them earlier, but definitely the feet. Danielle and I were just on a shoot, actually, where it was just the two of us, and we had the M15 but no ring and just a stand, and we had to run around carrying the stand and the Mobi together because it was a shoot where I was up shooting but then needed lots of breaks. So the feet are huge. These hand little plucker thingies are awesome. I love that. A couple other things. Okay, hot swappable batteries are something that I've been looking for a long time. The cables, because as I do, I build up my rigs with lots of cables on the camera, so the not having all of these extra cables is awesome.
Do you want to see cables real quick? We never talked through this table, actually.
There's a couple more really good questions.
Okay, skip it. We'll do this later.
What were some features that you wanted to add to the movie during design that didn't make it onto the final product?
To me? Okay, let me think about that. We discussed putting slip rings on all axis to allow unobstructed, like continuous rotation. We wanted the ring to break down at one point. We wanted the stand to not be 2 fixed feet, to be a swing stand where it would collapse into the ring. We spent about a month working on that, and we didn't end up getting to a concept that we thought was good enough to launch with, but it was a really cool idea that you'd set the ring down and these 2 feet would swivel out and hold it, and then they'd retract when you're shooting, so you wouldn't have to worry about catching these things on anything. What else did we want to have in this thing? I think just about everything else that we thought of on our first, I put a blog post up about creating Mobi Pro, so you can see a little bit of like how we approach product development here at Freefly. The week was pretty close to what we made. I think we started it on like November 17th, and by November 19th or 20th, we had hacked together a rough prototype that was pretty damn close to what we actually built.
Yeah, I think I remember seeing the prototype,
Yeah.
and it was like pretty much identical to this. It had some, like Tabb was saying, some different feet adjustments, but what was cool is that you guys had it for so long that you could really test it and perfect it.
Yeah.
Rather than just this happening like a month ago and then going, okay, we're ready. I mean, you guys have been testing for a long time, which is
Yeah.
awesome. I love that.
I think we're just like nervous. We're always nervous that we're going to screw something up or miss something big. So the way that we make ourselves feel better about that is get the product functional and start shooting with it as early as possible. And then, you know, if our filming teams here have gone on 10, 15, 20 shoots with it and everybody's all still smiles, then you know you're on the right track and you can keep investing time in that direction.
Yeah. Well, and you guys shoot too, which is what I like, is that you don't just make the stuff, you actually go out on shoots. Like I work with Hugh a lot, you guys a lot. I mean, it's really cool because you can find the things that, you know, customers, people might be annoyed by and fix them.
And it's amazing, it's incredible how like going out on a real shoot is very different from going out on something where you're just like testing, because the pressure that you're under when the consequences are real leads you to see things more clearly about like the workflow and speed of the system. Like you can kind of, when you're on the engineering team and you go out and test and you're like, oh, that didn't work quite like I expected, you can kind of talk yourself out of it like it's not that big a deal. But then when you go on a film set and there's some guy screaming at you because the thing is not working right, it definitely like improves your acuity to spot these things that we really need to fix to improve customer experience.
Yeah, I'd say speed is huge on those type of things. Where
Yeah.
you have a shot that's ready.
Yeah.
It needs to be ready to be filmed.
Yeah. What inspires you, Casey? That was a question I had.
I think for me, what inspires me a lot is, of course, movement. And I say it all the time. It's something that, like, when I'm in the car, driving, walking outside, I think of ideas when I'm moving. I usually don't just sit down at a table and, like, write ideas. I have to be out in the world. So movement, and also, you know, when I scout and go to different locations inspire me.
Yeah.
I light a lot based on location. So I go find a place that already looks awesome and try to light based on what that location gives me.
Yeah.
I would say another thing would be just graphic design elements, things like that. Visual things inspire me. All that, like when I was here earlier, I was just looking around the shop. There's a lot of inspiring things here. So I think it's cool to keep your environment something that inspires you all the time. So yeah.
Absolutely. I just have a few questions that I came up with that I've been asking people as they get exposed to Mobi Pro for the first time. So what was your first reaction when you saw like a finished Mobi Pro? What did you think?
My first reaction was awesome integration with the ring, which I thought was cool. That was
like,
the first
he's
thing.
like royalty.
Yeah,
Yes.
like $5 on each ring, maybe. But no, so
Actually, that's what Danielle was thinking.
yeah, exactly.
Casey was like, that ring doohickey is so cool.
Yeah, darn that thing. So the first thing I thought was that was awesome. Second thing was the batteries, which I actually promptly broke one of them when I first saw the prototype.
This is a good story.
So I walked in and like Tabb was like, "Here's the finished prototype of what we have," and I was like,
this
"Awesome!"
was-
And my thumb went. I think it was actually down here. I picked it up from the bottom.
Yeah.
My thumb pushed off this like super glass fragile prototype thingy
Yeah.
and shot across the room onto the floor. And it was in front of all the engineers, Tabb, everybody after this meeting. And I was just standing there in silence, seeing these broken fragments
So-
of a battery on the floor.
Yeah, we had just 3D printed our very first or second prototype for this battery, and we printed it on our object printer, which is very like dimensionally accurate, but the material is not very strong at all. And we kind of gave it to Casey, and it shot off and just exploded. And it was like the one and only one that we had to sign off before we were releasing tooling, which is like, you're cutting steel tools for these parts, and they're super expensive. So
Well, it's full of all these metal weights, so it
Yeah.
shot off super
Yeah.
fast and hard.
we had added like 250 grams of weight inside, so you could feel what the finished battery would actually feel like. And he was the poor guy that broke it.
So I cleaned up all the pieces, and then Tabb had me put them on one of the engineers' tables and say, "Hi, Casey was here. Can you fix this?" And then I left.
Is Mobi Pro the new name for the project that was Mobi XL?
No, Movi XL is a different project, which is right over there, which is much bigger. You can show the glimmer of it if you want. It's behind the sheet. You just stay here. Don't get too close. This thing's dangerous, so I don't want to bring the camera in too close. It is right here. There's the dev unit. And then here's another unit. So that project's still underway. That project and I are constantly arguing about launch date. We'll see who wins. But Mobi Pro is the successor to M10 and M15. Is that the right word? Successor? Is that, yeah.
There's a bunch of cable questions as well.
Okay.
So
We can
let
talk
me know
cables
that
for a
they're
minute.
coming.
Like cables.
What? Just one more question before we go there. What was the part of the M15 that annoyed you the most? Was it this lack of stand?
think
Or?
lack of stand, but also the general boot time.
Yeah.
Not that it was super slow, but it's one of those things on commercial shoots. It doesn't matter as much because there's an operator. You have time.
Yep.
You're ready. But for some of the sports stuff we do, so for example, last month Danielle and I did a shoot with 50 plus crew. Then the week after we did a shoot with just us.
Yeah.
No PAs, no help. And so on the bigger shoots, it's fine. But on the shoots where you're one man banding it, the boot up time is huge.
Yeah.
And so that was something where you see something you want to be ready.
Yeah.
So I'd say that would be the number one thing, and number two would just be a stand and feet. But I mean, that's sort of solved with, because on my setup I usually have the ring and then I can just rest it on the ground and kind of wait. But I think being able to leave it is going to be huge.
Yeah.
Just to let it sit there. So also another thing would be, I like what you were saying earlier about you can set it on the ground and get shots, because every time I set the movie down to rest
You
it,
like the way it
I
looks?
get the I'm always like, oh my gosh, we need to roll on that, and I always end up doing that. And it looks so cool having something low to the ground, and yeah.
What do you think we forgot with this? Actually, this is a question for Casey and anybody watching. What did we forget on this?
Well, my number one thing would be thumb wheel focus.
Thumb wheel focus.
I really want that.
Okay.
For just because me, when I'm operating alone, that is the one thing that I don't have control over with this. But other than that, with the actual setup currently, just looking at it, using it, I can't really name that many things. And I think it comes over time. After you use something for maybe 6 months to a year, you find the things you want.
Yeah.
But when when something's an evolution of like the M15 like this, I think that just seeing you guys evolve this, it's got all the things that I would have hoped to have been on it. So, yeah, I think it's pretty awesome.
Great, thanks.
Yeah.
You want to talk cables real quick? Cable questions?
Go find 'em.
Okay. Evan's going to work on finding them. I'll just talk about this stuff. So, batteries here, integrated fuel gauge. So it's super quick to know the charge status of a bunch of batteries. Like, when I go out shooting aerial stuff, I might take 6 sets of batteries, 4 sets of batteries. It's nice when you come in at dark 30 and grabbing your gear to just...
What time working on one battery with Red Epic?
2 batteries working with Red Epic, powering the camera and all accessories last about an hour. So let's talk through, so here's the fizz mount for Mobi Pro. This doesn't need here. This is the Alexa start-stop cable. So all the cables are like ultra thin and squishy and wonderful wire. We spent forever to find like the exact wire that we love. Super awesome. That's like one of those things that I'm super weird about and really interested in, is really nice wires. So if you ever buy a Freefly wire and you're like, ooh, this wire is really nice, it didn't just happen. We like scoured the earth for it. So and then this is a Epic start-stop cable. It looks very similar to the Red RCP cable. I didn't have one of those available. I think I sent my last one to Chris Herr and Shane Hurlbut. This is a motor cable, so standard motor LEMO, and then these are Molex microfit connectors, and they're over molded here, so they're super beefy and strain relieved. It's a locking connector too, so once you plug it in, you've got this little locking tab to keep it locked in. This is the Alexa power. D-tap on one side, Alexa power, right angle connector on the other. This is the Epic power, so D-tap and then Epic power on the other side. Again, nice flexible wire. These are the new rod mounts for the Mobi Pro. We thickened them up a little bit to allow people to clamp on them a little bit harder than their first generation ones. We didn't really expect with the first generation ones how big of big lenses, big focus motors, etc. people were going to run, so we beefed them up a little bit. This is the new camera plate. A nice feature I like is it has the ability to mount all the screws, so 2 3/8 screws and 2 1/4 20 screws in the thing for storage, which is handy, so you don't lose the screws when you're in the middle of nowhere. And then we settled on this plate where you can pick up these 2 points on the Epic. So there's 2 3/8 mount points for the Epic. So if you mount it, like if this was the front of the Epic, if you mount it this way, you have like less camera plate coming out this way, and then if you flip it around for heavier stuff, you have a lot of camera plate going out that way. So depending on where your camera package balances overall, it's kind of nice. And then I don't know if you can see on Hugh's phone, but if you look at the profile here, it's actually a dovetail now to increase clamping and make it easier to slide on and off with some nice little chamfers and lead in. So it's pretty easy to just touch the thing down and lock it in the camera rail. Chargers, they just look like this. They look like a standard like laptop power supply brick, and then with our custom connector on the end. So these just interface like that. Just clicks in.
Couple questions about batteries just
Yep.
coming in.
Yep.
How are the batteries doing for storage? Does the charger have storage charge mode? Do we need to baby them like in a LiPo?
You don't need to baby them like the LiPo. These have integrated battery management circuit boards that protect against overcurrent, overcharge, over discharge, short circuit, all those kind of things. So they shouldn't need to be babied. If you do need to, for some reason, discharge them to 50% state of charge for some reason or less, the only way available right now is to just discharge them on the Movi, and you'll actually be able to see, you can just turn it on and let it run down. You'll be able to see battery status on this back screen, so you can see the percentage.
Any chance for a quad charger?
Absolutely, gotta have one. Who is that? Are they an engineer? Can they do it?
Austin
What's his name? Austin?
Glass. Austin.
Someone sent me a question too, which
Yeah.
is, are you guys going to make adapters so these can be used to power other things? Like if you solely wanted to power your camera on this, or if you wanted to power even a small light, like LED light,
Yeah.
or just other things. Like for me, I actually have powered my camera with Movi batteries themselves,
Yeah.
and to make super small rigs,
Yeah.
like where it's just literally a grip, the mini,
Yeah.
Movi battery, and the EVF. And
Yeah,
like, these would be awesome.
We'd love to. Yeah, I mean, I'd love to. It'd simplify my workflow substantially if, like, when I went out and shot, I only took this battery for everything that I needed. So that'd be a huge win for me, and for people filmmaking that are making films with the Movi ecosystem. Again, it's just a question of when we can get it done.
Yeah.
Does the fizz mount come with the Movi Pro?
Yeah, yeah.
Can you leave batteries charging and not have to monitor them? You kind of covered it, but just that specific.
I mean, I don't know what the technical answer to that is. Like the safe, legal, and technical question. I do it all the time, but I do a lot of things all the time that I wouldn't necessarily recommend for everyone. I drive to work at 97 miles an hour, and take risks like leave these batteries unattended while charging, that kind of thing.
Does
I hope Megan isn't watching this right now.
Does does the D-Tap power bank have reverse polarity protection?
Can you clarify what you mean by that?
That one.
It's an output. So if you were to plug something in that had 12 volts going into the D-Tap, which I don't know why you'd be doing that, I believe we're protected for that. But if you wired up, let's say if you wired up a custom connector and you got that polarity wrong on your connector, it would be sending out 12 volt output there. There might be some overcurrent protection where if it gets if it senses an instantaneous short, it shuts it down after a certain amount of time, but it might damage your thing. So I would say the electronics in the Movi are well protected, but in that instance where you're sending something out external, like if I wire up the Epic D-Tap incorrectly and plug it into Epic, it's relying upon the Epic's internal protection to protect me in that case. So I can't say for sure what would happen.
How about a plate to power the Movi controller with the new batteries as well?
Yeah. Literally just said that. Yeah, that'd be great. That'd be awesome.
Austin.
Is that Austin? Austin, come on, man. Keep up. Anything else?
How much quicker does the Movi Pro get to the required satellites for tracking with 2 GPS?
Well, it's only using 1 GPS at a time. The purpose of the GPS is that you can mount it in gimbal down or gimbal up mode and get adequate reception. So there's a GPS antenna here and one there. So what I will say is the Movi Pro uses the next generation GPS module from the original Movi. So we are seeing higher satellite count and faster cold acquisition time. So that's been a nice performance boost that we got just from the newer module that uBlocks has released.
Joe Simon, is there a D-tap by the handle to power the power monitors?
No, there's not. The ring is totally dumb. There's no power or anything up here. There'd have to, this whole thing here would have to get incredibly complex if we were going to pass power up to various handles. This whole ecosystem would get crazy expensive, and you know. But something to think about is you could have a system where you added potentially a battery up here in a plate, which may or may not come in the future, and then distribute power to all the things out here. In most cases, though, we're using it in the setup like this, where we've got, you know, the wireless and everything is down here, and the only thing that's coming up here is just the monitor for the person operating to operate from.
Why not higher voltage than 14 volts for cam power?
Why higher voltage than 14 volts for cam power? I guess would be my question. Most of the camera that I'm aware of will run off 11 to 15 volts.
Can you please run through the QR landing gear?
Yes, absolutely. So, here are the component pieces, and the two legs, just quick release into this. There's just little toggle clamps here. Crank those down. And then, once this is there, I'll just kind of show you, it's already installed on this one, but you would, sorry.
Nope, I get it.
So this piece, which is this assembly, it just bolts on there with 4 bolts, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then, technical term for this piece is the ass foot, or foot ass. You can either leave this machined part attached and then just remove the carbon fiber piece if you want to, or this machined, you can remove the machined piece by removing those 2 screws, and then that machined piece slides out. So if you're going to be shooting a lot in aerial mode and then switching back and forth to handheld mode, we made it so you can just quick release this out, quick release these out, and keep shooting. Or if you want to create like kind of the slimmest, lightest package, then you can remove the actual machine parts. Anything else? Should we call it?
Yuri says that if he had gotten first place in the Freefly Anywhere contest instead of second, he would have gone with the Mobi Pro.
Oh, really? Well, that's unfortunate. Sorry, Gary. Maybe next time. I hope you'll do better in our next contest so you can buy our future products.
All right.
Good?
Good, good.
Everything good? All right, thanks for joining today. It's fun to, it's like a dream come true to get to talk to multiple people at once about the products that we're building here. So, thanks a lot. Exciting times.
Joe wants to know when his shipping.
Joe who?
Simon.
Joe Simon. Later today, Joe. Not really, just kidding. It's not going today.